Chapter 298, Absolute Suppression, Great Sumeru Clear Skyhammer, CL by Bagelson. Watching Tang San's deep golden color, the golden flames around Shenrinchu's sword, besides the tree where that stick of incense was stabbed, all the plants around instantly turned to ash. Without pausing, these enormous sacred flames instantly formed into the angelic sacred sword. Half the incense had already burned, and Shenrinchu wouldn't give Tang San any more chances. In one go, she used the final attack she previously faced Tang San's blue silver emperor with before. Even though Tang San's clear sky hammer was enormous, compared to the 100-meter-long angelic sword, it was still small potatoes. But Tang San himself still didn't have the slightest thought of pouring the sea god's light into the clear sky hammer to transform it into that enormous sea god trident image from before. Tang San swiftly took 3 steps forward, and with his last step, his left foot slammed heavily to the ground, an intangible energy wave instantly exploding. With the place he stepped as origin, the ground within 30 meters directly exploded, sinking more than 10 meters in a cloud of smoke and plant fragments. It clearly showed how terrifying the force of Tang San's step was. Even facing the angelic sword, Tang San wasn't discouraged in the slightest. This moment Shenrinchu clearly saw Tang San's eyes turn completely blood red. Indeed, blood red. If the golden blue color was divine and graceful, then this red color was most suitable to the great Sumeru hammer's aggressive aura. That sharp presence accompanied incomparably powerful imposing manner and condensed killing intent to soar towards the sky along with Tang San's leap. It was the moment this clear sky hammer leapt up from nowhere that Tang San suddenly understood why his great-grandfather Tang Chen chose the Asura god's inheritance. This clear sky Douluo's great Sumeru hammer was a perfect match with the Asura god's aura. Right now he was only a human-type combination, but he already possessed such wild presence and force that instantly climbing energy and incomparable competence absolutely couldn't be produced by the blue silver emperor. And at the same time Tang San also understood why his father didn't even need to use ring detonation when using the great Sumeru hammer, and could still block the spirit empire's second priest. The great Sumeru hammer made the clear sky hammer not need any spirit abilities, relying on the suppression of absolute force, 1 part power subduing 10 parts skill. The most tyrannical force completely erupted. This moment, Tang San felt like he had become one with his clear sky hammer. His leap didn't use any flying abilities, but was rather a leap with the force produced after combining him with the spirit. He actually leapt 1,000 meters into the air. That the force could bring him to such a height clearly showed just how close to divinity Tang San was. Shenrinchu, take my hammer. Sumeru reaches the skies, holding the giant hammer in both hands, facing the enormous golden energy of the angelic sword. Tang San didn't passively take a beating, but rather took the initiative to launch an attack. In just an instant, his first spirit ring, the 100,000-year spirit ring from the Titan giant ape exploded, perfectly fusing together with his body. At the same time as he swung the hammer, his right sleeve burst, surging yellow light frantically pouring into the hammer haft. Man and hammer united, Tang San issued an attack from his peak condition. Shenrinchu gave a cold snort, folding both hands over her chest, her left hand stretched in front as support, her right hand pushing from below, and that 100-meter-long angelic sword moved accordingly, burning with raging golden flame. That enormous bulk actually moved in the air as if igniting the sky. And for Tang San's hammer, while at the start he had led the hammer, once he truly launched the attack it turned to the hammer leading him. The hammer fell from the sky like a giant deeply golden meteor. Even though the clear sky hammer wasn't small, it wasn't at the level of the angelic sword. Deep gold collided violently with brilliant gold in midair, and a strange scene appeared. According to when Tang San used the blue silver emperor to clash with Shenrinchu's angelic sword, as the two energies met it should cause immense light and energy. But this time was different. The instant the two collided, heaven and earth suddenly dulled. An intense restlessness instantly rose in Shenrinchu's mind. She practically subconsciously severed the divine sense connection between her and the angelic sword, worth of being a power who had entered the god level. In such circumstances, she still made herself fly to the ground, forcibly distancing herself from the two energies that had mutually locked on each other. In the sky, after a brief darkness suddenly came brilliant light. Eye-piercing light illuminated the earth, making everything in the area shine. Countless specks of shattered golden light fell from the sky, and they landed there as bright as countless little suns. Amidst a series of intense explosions, each speck of golden light blew a large pit in the star-dough great forest, turning the surrounding atmosphere as if frozen. The atmosphere filled with divine presence as well as ruthless killing intent. The angelic sword was shattered. The angelic sword made by the god of angels Shenrinchu was actually destroyed like that. There wasn't a trace of it left in the air, and the countless golden stars were formed from its fragments. Even though Shenrinchu reacted very quickly, grasping the timing for retreat well, as the creator of the angelic sword, she was still affected. She swayed in the air as she was pushed to the ground. Her face pale as she stumbled back. How was it possible? In Shenrinchu's heart were only these 4 words. Tang San. Tang San actually relied on the strength of a single attack to shatter her angelic sword. Although that wasn't her divine weapon, it was still a powerful attack condensed from the power of a true god. How could he still break it? Even when he broke 3 of his spirit rings before, he was still blasted away by her sword, almost directly annihilated. So how could he reverse the circumstances when using 1 spirit ring just by changing spirit? Shenrinchu of course had no idea that Tang San had taken advantage of her stiff thinking. Indeed, before Tang San relied on the energy from breaking 3 spirit rings and still couldn't block her angelic sword. And moreover Tang San absolutely wasn't acting then. If he didn't use his full strength, then how could Shenrinchu not notice when she was always targeting him with divine senses? 6, 7, 8, what 3 spirit rings detonating couldn't accomplish, even if the clear sky hammer was stronger than the blue silver emperor. It was just by 1 first spirit ring, but naturally couldn't do anything. This was Tang San exploiting the thinking Shenrinchu had been imbued within their previous conflict. In terms of thinking, there was no difference between God and man, especially when Shenrinchu hadn't been God for long. Her thinking was still human thinking. This was one of Shenrinchu's weaknesses that Tang San found. The clear sky hammer wasn't the blue silver emperor, and even less Tang San's bare fist. The clear sky hammer reached 100,000 jin weight, and it had a 10-fold increase from Tang San's Titan giant ape left arm bones gravity control. This was also why at the start he was controlling the hammer, and later pulled along by the clear sky hammer. Even reduced to a tenth, the clear sky hammer still weighed 100,000 jin in Tang San's hands. Controlling a weapon like that wasn't easy. Therefore, after Tang San launched the attack, he used gravity control on the clear sky hammer, thereby giving it a terrifying million jin weight. Additionally, from where did the clear sky hammer's first spirit ring that Tang San broke come from? From the Titan giant ape Ming. Even if it was equally a 100,000-year spirit ring, the Titan giant ape spirit ring quality was far higher than those 3 15-ton emperors. He was himself a peak existence among strength-type spirit beasts, and that gravity control also came from the Titan giant ape's spirit ability. After 2 became 1, after Tang San shattered this first spirit ring, he possessed enormous force beyond Shenrinchu's expectations. Even more, the clear sky hammer was also inscribed with the death god domain that had already reached its ultimate evolution. The death god domain had a certain restraining effect on Shenrinchu's angelic domain, and when contained inside the clear sky hammer, drawing on the power of the ring detonation, its power completely fused with the clear sky hammer. The explosion it caused was extremely astonishing. The strength far exceeded Shenrinchu's expectations. After Tang San discovered the effect gravity control had on his weapon, the explosive power of his attacks had risen a level. Only, this gravity control had to be used on the weapon to be effective. Moreover, when Tang San used the sea god trident to launch a million jin level attack, he became aware that, although gravity control was effective, because the force a million jin produced was too great, it would empty out the Titan giant ape left arm bones energy in one go. In one day, this kind of million jin amplification could only be used for 1 attack. But even if it was just 1 attack, it could still be his trump card. This time he instantly relied on gravity control to change the situation at the most crucial moment. 1 swing went smoothly, but Tang San shivered all over. Even though he broke the angelic sword, he'd also suffered the backlash from the angelic power. Only, he clearly had no intent to stop now. The gravity control had already disappeared in the violent collision, but he still turned around in midair, 1 leg kicking out. With ear-piercing air-rending sounds, he relied on the evil spirit auger left leg bones auger evil spirit hatchet to forcibly push him through the air as if teleporting. At the same time, his second spirit ring instantly exploded, blending into the death god domain's enormous killing intent and forcibly dispersing the angelic power within him. The enormous clear sky hammer fell from the sky, smashing straight at Shenrinchu. No, just as Shenrinchu staggered, her old force broken and her divine power briefly obstructed, facing Tang San's continuous attacks, she could only helplessly raise her hands and condense a golden wad of light. Tyrannical, ruthless, the great Sumeru hammer filled with explosiveness, under the effect of the ring detonation, heavily struck the energy Chen Rinchu just condensed. Amidst the explosion, Tang San and Chen Rinchu grunted heavily almost simultaneously. Tang San wildly spit out a mouthful of blood, and even though Chen Rinchu was much better off than him, she was still knocked back by the hammer, forced in retreat by Tang San without a chance to catch her breath. The clear sky hammer rose, stained by the blood Tang San vomited out. Tang San only half turned in midair, and his third spirit ring exploded. In spirit avatar state, the clear sky hammer drew on the force from the ring detonation and was fully colored deep gold. This third swing yet again fell from the sky. Boom! Chen Rinchu fell back one large step. Her hands crossed a block in front of her, blocking this third attack with cross-shaped star-like angelic divine power. Tang San vomited blood once again, but Chen Rinchu was also blasted back again. She was beaten back by Tang San like this despite her god level strength. Without being able to do anything, she could only be forced back. Tang San's face was already deathly pale, but the blood color in his eyes was still so intense, not changing in the slightest due to his physical state, as if it wasn't him that just vomited blood. Just as Tang San's fourth spirit ring exploded and hit the hammer for the fourth time, Chen Rinchu finally erupted. Even though Tang San couldn't harm her, being suppressed by him like this in a single breath was still an extraordinary humiliation to her. In fact, she possessed god level strength. Being suppressed with god-level power was simply ridiculous. This time Chen Rinchu didn't block Tang San's attack with her hands. The 6 wings on her back gathered around her simultaneously, enveloping her within and making her look like a giant golden cocoon. With an intense explosion, Chen Rinchu was flung back, but in midair, an enormous golden figure appeared to cradle her body. That was the figure of an angel, exactly the same as Chen Rinchu's angel figure. At the same time as it caught her, with a shake of its 6 wings, countless golden feathers whirled out, shooting towards Tang San from every direction. Forced by Tang San's great Sumeru hammer, Chen Rinchu used her spirit abilities. At the same time as she stiffly blocked Tang San's strike with her body, she gave herself a chance to retaliate. Tang San's expression didn't change, as if he didn't see the attacks shooting from all around. His 5th spirit ring exploded, surging dark golden light covering him and the clear sky hammer. The giant clear sky hammer swept through the air, and Tang San flew out once again. Grasping the hammer in both hands, he chased straight after Chen Rinchu. The instant those countless golden feathers were about to stab Tang San, suddenly, his 6th spirit ring also exploded. This was also the first spirit ring the 315-ton Ant Emperor brothers gave him. 100,000-year level spirit ring. Boom! Tremendous pure golden light swept out, just like a giant whirlpool suddenly breaking open. The golden light surrounding Tang San was completely broken down by the power from this ring detonation, and his own speed didn't weaken in the slightest. He reached Chen Rinchu in just a blink of an eye, and that giant clear sky hammer still landed. What Chen Rinchu saw was Tang San's blood-colored eyes, filled with stubbornness and endless aggression. His fighting spirit didn't weaken in the slightest even when facing a god like her. Chen Rinchu couldn't understand why Tang San did it, but she still had no choice but to raise her arms again, enduring Tang San's attack. And this time, her body was forcibly smashed into the ground. Just now she took one of Tang San's swings for the chance to launch her spirit abilities, but it was only when Chen Rinchu directly suffered the clear sky hammer smash that she understood just how terrifying the force of Tang San's attack was. The might caused after the ring detonation really was too tyrannical. Her angelic wings could block all the explosive force, but not that bone-chilling aggressiveness and killing intent. The great Sumeru hammer's aggressiveness and the death god domain's killing intent were perfectly fused together, and directly penetrated the 6 wings to pour into her body, weakening that spirit ability attack she launched by 40%, and she had to circulate her angelic power with all her strength to force out the aura Tang San poured into her. And it was under such circumstances that Tang San's 5th swing reached her. How could Chen Rinchu have enough energy to block? Thus she was hit and smashed into the ground. At this moment Chen Rinchu felt deeply regretful. She shouldn't have underestimated Tang San. After becoming god, she subconsciously felt that there shouldn't be anyone in this world that was her opponent. When facing Tang San, she also always held an attitude like a cat toying with a mouse, never using her full strength. And this man seemed to fully understand her mood. It was also in just such circumstances, exploiting all manner of advantages, he held that she was forced this far. Chen Rinchu believed that, if she could do it over, she definitely wouldn't give Tang San such chances. She would definitely put all her strength on catching him instantly. Only, right now regret was still a bit late. One attack hit, and Tang San's imposing manner grew increasingly scorching hot. The 7th spirit ring burst without hesitation, and he fell from the sky after Chen Rinchu. In order to follow up, he basically didn't pay any mind to the state of his body. When attacking, his goal was to perfectly destroy the enemy. No matter how painful, he still persisted in detonating his 7th spirit ring. He couldn't use gravity control again, but as the force from his 7th spirit ring detonation flowed into the clear sky hammer, Tang San still discovered that the weight of his clear sky hammer suddenly more than doubled. Moreover, the force of this swing was clearly much greater. Even though it still couldn't compare to the Titan giant 8th spirit ring, it was still more overbearing than before. This was the first time Tang San used the great Sumeru hammer in the true sense, and the pain he felt was completely unable to conceal the pleasure he felt from the series of ring explosions. Chen Rinchu's feet heavily landed on the ground, causing an enormous explosive sound, and this was when Tang San's 7th swing reached her. Chen Rinchu simultaneously also understood how her father was seriously injured by the clear sky Douluo back then, even though his strength should have been superior to Tang Hao. The clear sky school could last for 1,000 years, and once become the world's #1 sect, definitely wasn't easy. Originally, the technique he used to shatter his spirit rings had to be used with this hammer to show its true might. On her forehead, the golden little angel brightened, a faint flowing light suddenly spreading out, forming a strange casing like porcelain around her, and Chen Rinchu herself put her palms together inside the casing, all emotions in her eyes now completely restrained. Like a pious believer, she neither heard nor saw Tang San's 7th hammer swing falling. Boom! The clear sky hammer rigidly smashed onto the golden egg-like shell. With an intense explosion, Chen Rinchu was unexpectedly smashed straight into the ground along with the entire golden eggshell. However, Tang San's expression changed slightly, because the enormous rebound force almost made him lose his hold on the clear sky hammer, and his entire body was bounced back 100 meters high in the air. The next instant the land turned completely golden. Chen Rinchu's calm voice echoed from all directions. Tang San, you can already be proud that you could force me to use my divine ability angelic shield to protect myself. You truly have shocked me. No wonder you were so certain to contend against me. But unfortunately, in the end you still won't win. I will teach you, gods cannot be defeated. The golden color spread to fill the sky and cover the land, the faint luster rising from the ground to cover the air. Tang San's expression turned extremely unsightly. In the end he hadn't detonated his 8th spirit ring, because now he had already completely lost track of Chen Rinchu. But her presence still hadn't vanished, rather existing in all directions, everywhere the golden light was. He should indeed feel proud. He drew out a divine defensive ability like an absolute defense from Chen Rinchu, and also made her use the god level angelic domain, the true angelic domain. He really didn't know whether he should feel excited or depressed. That she used the angelic domain meant Chen Rinchu was finally going all out. That stick of incense was still burning properly, stuck in that large tree protected by Chen Rinchu's divine power. This ability to separate divinity alone was far beyond what Tang San was capable of. The last bit of incense still remained now, maybe even less than 3 minutes. Only, could he really last another 3 minutes? The surroundings filled with a golden world. Tang San no longer sensed the Stardo Great Forest. Inside the angelic domain was just like the first time he fought Chen Rinchu. His domain was completely suppressed again, differing by 1 level. Only, this time the difference was even larger, the gap between man and god. Clenching the clear sky hammer with both hands, Tang San slowly closed his eyes. He knew that using his eyes now was completely meaningless. Inside the god level domain was fully Chen Rinchu's territory. Relaxing his whole body, sensing the sharp twinges of pain from his limbs and bones, the aggressiveness in Tang San's expression gradually disappeared. In its place was a kind of difficult to describe calm, as if he was fully in a kind of peculiar state, and the last 8th spirit ring on the clear sky hammer was now also directly shattered by Tang San, turning into a deep golden energy that flowed into the clear sky hammer and his body. The surrounding temperature suddenly rose. By observing through his mental strength, Tang San discovered that countless golden fiery dragons were lunging towards him, each golden dragon condensed from angelic divine power, bringing out the best of this angelic domain. Chen Rinchu was untraceable, but this enormous golden fire dragon formation was already launched. Boom! The clear sky hammer smashed the first fire dragon, immediately followed by the second, third, fourth. Tang San's ring detonation force was contained in the clear sky hammer, not allowing it to leave, completely relying on skill and the clear sky hammer's own force to contend with those golden fire dragons. He floated in his original position, and with each swing he would rotate 1 turn. The enormous clear sky hammer he held caused an intense wind. The feet that never seemed to move still made ingenious small-scale shifts that made him flicker like an illusion. This was the Tang Sect's secret skill Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step. Tang San's Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step was long since practiced to major success, and so was his created spirit ability, Ghost Shadow Perplexing Step and Disorder Splitting Wind Hammer method merging into Disorder Splitting Wind Dance. He now bounced inside the angelic domain, all due to his created spirit ability. Even if the clear sky hammer was so enormous, it was still unable to impact Tang San's agility. In the Disorder Splitting Wind Dance, facing the collected attacks of countless fire dragons, he could always have the clear sky hammer he held attack a fire dragon in the optimal position, but also only one. He never let himself face two fire dragons at once. Those fire dragons might seem unending, but as Tang San moved in the air, he still caused such circumstances. With each explosive swing, one fire dragon would shatter. Only, very soon, one more one condensed not far away and lunged frantically at Tang San. Chen Rinchu's divine sense coldly observed Tang San inside her domain. Just like Tang San judged, the moment she used the angelic domain, she no longer planned to let Tang San escape. Even though not much time had passed, Chen Rinchu understood even more deeply that Tang San's strength was almost exhausted. His spirit power would basically be completely ground down by the fire dragons in her domain and die, even before the stick of incense reached its end. Tang San, oh Tang San, that you could force me to this step really is rare. Only, I can't let you off again. Even if you've already become the weakness in my heart, I still have to kill you. You really are too terrifying. Even at God level, I can still feel how terrifying you are. If you're really allowed to develop further, without a doubt, one day you will definitely surpass me, and I can't let that day come to pass. Tang San used all kinds of shapes to fight Chen Rinchu this time, and Chen Rinchu had finally given up on her dreams of conquering him. She deeply felt that this man was basically impossible to conquer, not even with the bet. If she didn't kill him now, then the next time they met, he would be formidable to an unknown degree. At that time the one to die might be her. Tang San had persisted by perfectly exploiting some imperfections in Chen Rinchu, but he had also successfully roused her killing intent, making her decide to no longer give him any chances. But at this moment, Chen Rinchu's expression suddenly changed slightly, because she was shocked to discover that the attacks Tang San swung one after another no longer showed signs of spirit power decreasing, and on the contrary grew stronger with each swing. The swings he released before still had to perfectly hit the golden fire dragon to smash it, but now, even just the wind pressure could easily shatter a fire dragon. The rate at which the fire dragons recondensed and attacked again could no longer measure up to Tang San's swing speed. How was it possible? Suddenly, the light of understanding flashed through Chen Rinchu's mind. What a Tang San! He actually didn't give up even now, actually using the clear sky school's useless disorder splitting wind hammer method. Chen Rinchu's discovery couldn't be called slow, but Tang San's disorder splitting wind hammer method had already been swung a full 80 times. At the same time as he made the last swing, the surrounding fire dragons all disappeared. The seraphim, Chen Rinchu herself, with 6 wings stretched out, her body almost transparent, charged toward him trailing a dazzling golden tail flame. With this period of rest, Chen Rinchu was no longer gasping for breath, and had moreover raised her divine power to the strongest degree. Without using the divine weapon, this was practically her strongest attack, and facing her was Tang San's disorder splitting wind dance's last blow. The black color on the clear sky hammer suddenly disappeared. The instant after Tang San swung this last blow, his whole body seemed to become illusory in midair, and behind Tang San, a coiling shadow glittered. That was a red disc, fully blood red, a red brimming with infinite solar intent. That red color contained a special aura pulse that unexpectedly temporarily forced the surrounding angelic domain to retreat, causing the full force of Tang San's swing to be completely condensed in Chen Rinchu's direction. 81 swings becoming one, the force superpositioned. Even though every previous swing was weakened a bit due to eliminating a fire dragon, at this moment, the instant this 81st swing erupted, Tang San also completely released the condensed energy from his 8th spirit ring detonation. Without question, this was also the strongest attack he was capable of right now. The strongest struck the strongest. The instant the two sides were about to collide, Tang San opened his eyes. From his pupils, 2 pure gold lightning bolts shot out, in such close range, with the 2 attacks about to collide, even a power like Chen Rinchu couldn't dodge, and those 2 deep golden lights shot into her eyes. Divine intense shock. Chen Rinchu only felt like 2 sharp needles were forced into her brain, her powerful divine sense unexpectedly turning completely chaotic in this moment, and her original 120% attack suddenly lost 40%, only 80% remaining. Even her angelic domain fluctuated intensely due to the divine sense being excited. Boom, an everlasting collision, an explosion like heaven and earth splitting. Tang San's clear sky hammer exploded against Chen Rinchu like a furious golden dragon. This moment, his clear sky hammer no longer had a trace of black. Relying on the force of the disorder splitting wind hammer method and ring detonation, Tang San actually raised his clear sky hammer to the god level. Tang San knew that if he could always maintain the clear sky hammer like this, then he would also be a god. And the clear sky hammer wasn't just his spirit, but also his weapon. Just like the sea god trident for the sea god back then had a golden trident as his spirit. Ultimately it was refined into a true divine weapon. Otherwise, how could it possess such enormous divine power? In the sky, the completely golden heaven suddenly showed a crack. A shadow fell from the sky, heavily smashing onto the ground, an enormous energy wave blasting a giant hole in the ground. And the golden light in the sky at this moment quickly condensed towards one point. The one squeezed out from the crack and falling to the ground was unquestionably Tang San. Right now he only felt like all his bones were shattered, and the clear sky hammer without spirit rings now also turned into specks of black light and disappeared into his body. Unusable. But Tang San was still excited, because he had relied on his intelligence and strength to actually cut open a god level domain. That was a god level domain.